About steelheading is finding the fish.
Wait a minute. I don't think I can go on any further.
Grandpa, come on, hurry.
You go on without me and take care of your grandmother. Tell her that I'm sorry.
Come on, Grandpa, you can do it.
One of my favorite patterns to use for steelhead are buggers of very...
Delicious. Bring me more.
Yes, master.
There must be a solution. There's always a solution.
The only solution is to pray, my children. Pray for a miracle.
Another one, it's called the purple crystal bugger. Make sure you have these materials ready before you...
Hit right at the end of the float, so it's very important when you're steelheading too to let that fly sit there. A lot of times, you know, steelheaders, they'll let it sit there for probably 10 seconds. Sometimes they do what they call the little twitch.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I
left mine there for about 10, 15, more, even 20 seconds, and the guy hit it.
Yeah, and just let it dangle there. A lot of times they'll just come right over or they'll chase it right in. Sometimes you'll feel them pluck it, just biting at it as they swing in through the hole. And then they normally, when it's dangling right at the end of the float, is when they'll nail it. So again, that's basically it, just down and across. And again, following, keeping your rod low to the water, following that fly and that line so you can just feel any kind of pull and right through the hole. And it depends, every type of year, there's sometimes you can fish dry flies or on the surface, other times the water's a little dirtier, you gotta go with sink tip lines. And again, depends, most of the time when you go through the runs, if there's steelhead there, if you find the fish, more times than not, they're takers. You usually get something to bite or whatever. It's the big thing about steelheading is finding the fish.
One of my favorite patterns to use for steelhead are buggers of various types. And this is another one. It's called the purple crystal bugger. Make sure you have these materials ready before you tie the fly. We'll use a size 4 steelhead hook as the hook, some 6/0 black thread to tie with, some black marabou for the tail, some black ice chenille for the body, some medium French tinsel as the ribbing, some olive crystal flash for the body and tail highlights, and some purple hackle as the hackle. First step to the fly is make sure you have a nice base layer of thread tied in. So I've done that already. Now I've taken some black marabou, a nice clump of it. We're going to measure it up about the size of the hook, maybe just a slightly longer, and tie it in for the tail. And again, don't go all the way back down to the hook bend. You want to tie it up just from the hook bend, that tail, so it sticks straight back on the fly. Once the tail's tied in, take your oval tinsel, and again it's French tinsel and it's oval, medium size, and we'll tie it in, and this will be used for the ribbing once we get the body tied in. The next step is to take our purple hackle and we're going to tie it in by the tips. So go right back down to the base of the hook and take it by the tip, the hackle tips, and tie it in. Take some black ice chenille and trim off a little bit of the chenille from the end to expose the thread underneath. And tie it in because we don't want to make our body too bulky. Tie it right back to the bend of the hook. Move your thread forward. And then slowly wrap in your ice chenille to form the body. Now take 2 strands of our green or olive crystal flash. We're going to tie it in right at the eyelet of the hook. And now pull these back so they go down the length of the body of the hook on both sides, equidistant, and right parallel with the hook, right down the sides. Then what we're going to do is take our copper ribbing, our medium French tinsel we have, and slowly wrap forward to form the ribbing and tie in the highlights. Now we're going to take our hackle that's been sitting off the back, the purple hackle, and again we'll take about 4 to 5 wraps up the fly. We don't mind it too bushy. We want this fly to be somewhat bushy. And always when we get near the head, you're going to take about 5 to 6 extra wraps in the head. We want to form a nice bushy head on this fly. And tie it off. Once you've tied off the head, we are going to take that thread and form a black head on the fly and push this hackle back so it flares back over the body. The last step in the fly is to take our black thread and do a whip finish once we've created a black head on the fly. Cut off the thread and then go back and trim our highlights, and we want our highlights to be about the length of the tail. So there it is, the finished purple crystal bugger. I really do enjoy fishing buggers for most of my steelheading, and that's just one more for my arsenal.
The Super 6 Water Softener Deal.
No installation, taxes, or payments for 6 months.